Hi, I'm Stephan Smith of Artsmith Craftworks. Thank you for buying your Steampunk Airship Kit. I hope you have as much fun assembling it as I had in preparing it for assembly. And follow these instructions along with me and you'll have a very nice airship by the time you're done. Okay, so this is the piece that you get in your Steampunk Airship Kit. You actually get two of these because these are what form the cone that makes up the body of the airship, the cones I should say, front and back. And you can see by the shape of these fingers that they're meant to kind of go together, and when they do, when you get them all together, then they form that front cone. So what I do to start with is I'll take just a piece of like 2-inch masking tape, a length that's about the length of the side of one of these cones, and it doesn't have to be real precise. Just tear yourself off a chunk, and then what I'll do is I'll take like a craft knife and just cut that into approximately 8 pieces, 8 lengths, and then I'll show you how we start to put that together. It's a little bit of a trick, but it really isn't very difficult. I've put a lot of these things together and it's not bad at all. So what you want to do first of all is just give a little thought to which side's going to be the outside. Some of these are going to have ink or printing on them because these are actually cut from old file folders. My work is all done with repurposed materials, and I usually don't buy much that's new. So if there's a piece on there that you don't think you're going to want to try to paint over there, or something printed, written, whatever, then make that the inside, because it doesn't really make any difference. It can go either way. So I take that and I put it about halfway. You can see I'm sticking that halfway onto the edge of this cone. It's easier sometimes to do it down flat. See how I'm just kind of taping one edge of the tape, and when the tape is thin like that, it'll actually kind of contour just a little. And so I'm going to do that on each one of these fingers. I'm going to stick that so that the tape is half on and half off that edge, and then just kind of rub it down. I do most of this on one of these cutting mats. I mean, that kind of makes it easy because you can cut something with the knife on it. You can stick stuff to it and peel it up pretty easy, like the tape peels up pretty easy from it. And then the next one. And I'm kind of going fairly fast just to save room on the video, but take your time. You want it to turn out nicely and the way that you expect. So stick that down. And masking tape, over time will kind of get brittle and dry, which is why at the end of this, when you get your cone together, I'm going to say that you should run a bead of glue along the outside edge of this, like just white craft glue, PVA glue as they call it, and then that will kind of permanently seal it so that the tape isn't the only thing holding this together. It just does a job of holding it until you get to the gluing point. Okay, so here we got, and it's okay that doesn't go all the way out to the edge, and there's a reason for that. So now you got that stuck to all of those edges, and now what you're going to want to do is the tape's going to be to the inside, so you're going to want the curl to go this way so that it's the inside of the cone. So I just go and I just kind of fold this together and kind of curl this at the same time, so that I'm meeting those edges first there, then there, and see how I kind of walk up and stick it so that the edges are coming together there and there, and then you come right out to the edge and do that last little bit finally. You can see it already has that little bit of a curl, and then you go and do the next one, bend and kind of curl it together, and you'll see how it really doesn't take that long or that much effort or even that much skill really to put that together. And you can like lay it down and kind of, you know, run your finger along it a little bit to kind of set the tape a little bit better. So you're going to go and you're going to do that for every one of those fingers. Okay, so now here's that whole cone kind of put together except for the very end. And what I tend to do here is to line up the bottom so that you can kind of see where you need to start pinching that last part of the cone together. And I just look and see, okay, how's that lining up? And for the most part, it should be, I mean, they're laser cut, so they're pretty accurate. So you could just start kind of with the tip there with one finger inside like that to be the finger that compresses the tape. And then just kind of go down, line it up, line it up. This tab you want underneath, and line it up and push, and line it up and push. Okay, so now, and you can kind of run your finger along that seam line just inside there so that it's nice and tight. And if you get a little separation there at the top, it's okay. It's not that big a deal because that's going to kind of all come together later. But now what you're going to want to do is take just a little bit of white glue and put it under that tab there, and then line that all up so that it's nice and straight, and pinch that together and hold it. When you get that glue in there, like I said, what you want to do is make sure that you kind of pull that in a little bit so that that line is straight, because you'll notice that as these come around, this kind of levels off and gets straight. So you want to do that with your tabbed piece too, and then just pinch and hold it until that glue sets. But otherwise, now you've got that completed cone. And to do what I was talking about before with the glue, what you want to do is take that bottle of glue and just run a very, very thin little bead of glue right along that seam, and then just take your finger and kind of rub it in. So basically that glue is filling that seam, and when it dries it's going to secure that edge so that the tape coming apart eventually inside or whatever is not going to allow that to come apart on you. So you go along and do that to every seam as well. Okay, so now you got both of your cones done and glued, and the glue is dry. The next step is to join those two halves of the cone, and the way you do that is in your kit you had a plain inch-wide strip of folder paper. It's the same thing that the cones are made out of. And what you're going to do is you're going to take a bead of glue and you're going to run it just right on the inside edge, if you can see this, right along that inside edge, not right on the edge so that the glue doesn't squish out, but in about maybe 1/8 of an inch or so, right on where the flat level part of the cone is, all the way around on the inside. Then you're going to take that strip and you're going to coil it upon itself and just overlap it a little bit, because the idea is you're going to take this cone and you're going to, or the strip, and you're going to stick it inside the cone so that this gets glued in, and you want to like overlap it a little bit. You can see how much I kind of have it overlap there a little bit, and just hold it and then put it right on the inside of that cone about halfway in, and then let go so that it kind of expands and touches the inside edge, and then kind of shove it in to where only about half of it is sticking out, like maybe a 1/2 of an inch, and then you can gently kind of squeeze it to the inside a little bit so that it touches that glue. Make sure kind of that this is sort of straight in there and that it's about halfway. It's not an exact thing, it's just, you know, get it in there and touching the glue as much as possible. And you might even want to take a little bit of glue and put it in between the ends of those two, the two ends of the strap, and let that glue set or dry for a few minutes. Okay, now what you want to do is glue the other half of the cone onto the first half now that your glue is dry on there. So the same thing is going to happen. You're going to put a nice decent bead of glue in there. And then you're going to take that other cone and you're going to slide the one end into the other. And you might have to kind of like mash it down with your fingers a little bit just to get them lined up and sliding in there. So now you're going to want to just gently twist, make sure that that's setting even kind of all the way around, and that the seams line up. So you can twist it a little bit just to kind of make sure everything gets glue on it, but then go all the way around and make sure that the bases of the cones are just kind of touching and that your seams are lined up. The seams being lined up are very important, otherwise it's not going to look right at all when you get finished. See how everything is just kind of all lined up? This doesn't have to look perfect, just make sure that they're just touching and that they're not overlapping the bottoms of the cones, that is. And then once you have that put together like that, set that aside and let it dry. Okay, now that your airship body is dry, you need to make a hole on either side of the middle here, which you see that I've already done. And the way that you do that is just take a craft knife, and you can point the blade away from you. I find that to be a little bit easier, and you start to stick the point in there and slide forward so that you've got a nice little slit there. And then take the blade and just kind of do one of these numbers where you're kind of widening that hole out just a little bit. And then do the exact same thing on the opposite side. So you're going to just flip it directly over like this so you know you're right opposite. Do the same thing. Be very careful, kind of support that cone as you do this, because it is lightweight index stock basically, and it's fragile. And plus you're cutting through 2 layers of paper, because you've got this layer and then you've got the wrapped layer that's holding the 2 halves together. So you just take that, gently slice, take your time, make sure you got a nice slice, then wiggle the knife back and forth a little bit to widen that out. If you've got like a coffee stir stick, you can kind of make that a little bit wider. The reason we're doing that is because that's where the gondola stick is going to go up through to create your hanging gondola when it's done. Okay, so now what we want to do is we want to put the gondola assembly together. In your kit you have a piece of plastic like this. Like I said, I use repurposed materials, and so these were some kind of a marker cap I believe I got in bulk at a scrap store. Then I've got one of these craft sticks that I have drilled a hole into the end of so that you can hook some kind of a hanger on there later. If you don't want to use that hole, feel free to flip this around and do something opposite. I've actually taken wire and wrapped it around there. It's a little bit more decorative, and then looped it at the top and wrapped it some more so that it looks a little bit more punky. But for some people, having the hole in the stick is enough, and they'll hang like a Christmas bulb hook in there or something like that. Whatever you want to do is fine. But then what you're going to do is you're going to put in this pre-drilled hole that I've done in these caps, which is meant to fit this stick, you're going to put a little bit of glue. The kind of glue is up to you. You can put a dab of super glue in there. If you like using some of the other solvent-based glues, like I like to use E6000, that works really well, makes kind of a rubbery little seal in there. If you've got some other kind of glue that you'd rather use, by all means go ahead. I don't think craft glue is the best for this application because you're dealing with plastic. It'll be okay, and these fit tight enough that you don't really need to secure it too much, but a little dab of glue in there would probably be a good idea. And then you just take that stick, put it in that hole, and shove. It's going to be nice and tight, and then just make sure that it's kind of square to the stick. Oops, sorry, square to the stick. and then set that aside and let it dry. Okay, now what you're going to do is you're going to take the finished airship body, and in that hole that we made last step, you're going to take this stick and you're going to gently just kind of wiggle, get it started, slide it into that hole, and then turn it over and carefully kind of poke and prod with the other end of the stick until you find that hole and shove it up through just like that. Where you put it here, you know, how close that gondola is or far away it is purely up to you, but what you wind up with is, you know, that nice little airship and gondola shape. Then what I would do excuse me, is take a little bit of glue, and in this case it can be white glue, and just put a little dab right there and right at the top to kind of seal it so that the stick is bound in place. And you can flip that over and do it on the other side as well. Make sure that your gondola is straight. You might need to kind of twist the stick just a little bit to get it to to line up. Sorry for the cough there. And let that dry. Okay, the next step is to take that center band. Okay, I call it a girth band. You can call it whatever. It's just another thin piece of paper that's had a rectangular slot cut in it. And you're going to take that and go right over the top of that airship. It goes right over the top of the stick. And then you're going to gently wrap that all the way around until you come back to the bottom of the stick. And you can see that the paper is really a little bit longer than is necessary to go around the airship by, oh, I don't know, maybe 1/4 of an inch. So if you wanted to snip about 1/4 of an inch off of each end, then that would probably do. Let's just do that right now. So about 1/4 of an inch, about like that. And then flip it over and do the same thing, about 1/4. It's okay if you cut it a little too short. It's on the bottom. People won't even really see that. So then you're going to wrap that all the way around, and you'll see it comes almost to where the stick comes out the bottom. And you're going to want to secure that with a little dab of glue here and a little dab of glue here. So you're going to come right around, and you'll see that this is effectively covering that seam as you come around the airship. And then you just want to put your thumbs on there and hold the ends until that glue sets. And like I said, when you're talking about paper, Elmer's glue sets it pretty fast. The cool thing about putting a band around there, besides it covering the joint of the two halves of the airship, is you can paint this like a totally different color, and it'll wind up looking really cool. It just really accents the airship. Okay, so now I want to go over how you make the end cone caps. In the kit you'll have 2 of these little yellow discs, and these are going to get curled into a little cone that you're going to use to be the nose cone of your airship kit, and also the end cone that will have the propeller on it. So what you need for this is just a standard paper punch that you can get anywhere. You probably have one laying around the house. On each one of these discs there's a crosshair drawn already that quarters the disc. So what you're going to want to do is turn this upside down so that you can see the hole that you're going to punch, and slide that disc into the paper punch, and then punch that hole out. So you have a nice, pretty centered hole in the middle of that disc. Then you're going to take a pair of scissors and you're going to cut 1/4 of that circle out, 1/4 of the pie, so to speak. So just following those little hash marks, you're going to cut there, turn it a 1/4 turn, and cut on that line there. So now you have this. And from there, what you're going to do is you're going to, like I said, you're going to curl that into a cone. So it helps to have just an old wooden sharpened pencil. And on the side opposite the markings, you just want to take that and just sort of start to, well, you can flip it over, and start to just sort of pre-curl that cone so that it starts to coil up, and this will make this part a lot simpler. So you see that I'm just kind of rolling it along the tip of that pencil so that now it has a little bit of a pre-curl to it. Then you put the pencil down, and what you're going to do is take the ends of that circle and overlap them to the point where the edge comes to that next mark. And by doing that, you're sliding, 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 curling that into a cone. And then you're going to want to put a little dab of glue there, wrap it around, and hold it. Make sure that on the other side that end is kind of level, otherwise you'll have to trim that off later. So you got about that much, and you got the other inside edge kind of tucked in, and you're holding that glued spot. Also, the hole that's in there is going to need to be about the thickness as the little sticks, the little dowels that are included in the kit, because those are going to get inserted into there and glued in the next step. So kind of watch the diameter of that little top hole, and then we'll move on to the next step, and you do that with the other one as well. Now when you've held that cone for a few seconds and it's nice and dry, then take the tip of that pencil and stick it inside the cone like that, and just kind of roll it so that you're making it nice and rounded as you roll that pencil around like that. Okay, so then you're going to have that nice little cone. Now in the kit, you were given a bead as well, and the only reason you have this bead, and you can use it as part of the airship later if you want to, and I'll show you how you could do that, but what you want this bead for is gluing your stick and your cone together, so that you set your bead hole up, stand that one of the little pieces of doweling up in that bead like that, and then slide your cone down over the top. And so what it does is it kind of holds that stick more or less upright while supporting that cone as it dries. And then what you want to do is you want to take just a little dab of glue here and put it right on the edge of the stick cone interface, if you want to call it that way. And then I would just hold the cone and give that stick a little twirl. And if it's loose in there, you might want to put a little bit of extra glue, because the glue will kind of fix a few looseness problems if you have it. And then just kind of twirl that stick a little bit to revolve that glue around, and just move the cone around just a little bit until you can see that the stick and the glue and the cone are all nice and straight and even like that. And then let that dry just like that. You're going to obviously do that to the other cone as well. Okay, so once the band is around the middle of the airship, then you can put the end cones on. And remember, we did this step before where we're putting the little yellow cone and the dowel over the bead to dry, and then that sticks into the end. So you got enough of an opening there where all the points of the airship cone come together, that you can stick that stick right in there, kind of twist a little bit, and stick that cone right on the end so that it's like that. So then all you want to do is put a little dab of glue on the inside there and stick that right in there just like that, and just kind of move it around till you're satisfied with how the stick looks, and then hold it until that glue sets. And then you're going to want to do the same thing on the other end. So on this end that I'm holding, that'll wind up being the back or the propeller end, and then the one on the front, which is identical to this, just winds up being the nose cone. Later you'll put the propeller on that stick. Okay, the last step, or one of the last steps I should say, is to take the cutout for the propeller that is included in your kit, and you're going to want to do one little thing to prepare that for your airship, and that is to kind of curl the blades on the propeller so that they look like they would actually propel something. So you can take a bamboo skewer, you can take a chopstick, you can take the tip of a pencil, what have you, anything that's got a bit of a taper, and you're going to come right to the front edge of one of those and grab the paper from behind and just kind of roll or curl it towards you a little bit. And how much you do that is up to you, of course, but when you do that, you wind up getting, you know, that little, so you can see it there, a little bit of a curled look to it, and do that on the same edge all the way around, so that you have something that looks a little bit more like a propeller. And then from there, you can take the hole that's in the middle of the propeller piece and make that just a little bit bigger. It's got a hole punched in there now, but I would take some kind of a pencil, or, you know, it can be a mechanical pencil or the tip of a sharp wood pencil, or if you have some kind of a little scribe or probe or an awl or something like that that will work, you can widen that out a little bit, because what you need to do is have it so that it fits the end cone here, and that hole is just a little bit too small. You can use whatever you have, like I said, and you want to just go in there and open that hole up just a little bit, and then on the back of your airship you'll want to put that on. You can do this step after or before you do the fins. It might actually be a little bit easier to do this step after you do the fins, and then just put a little dab of glue on there and just kind of watch it so that it dries straight, and then you have the propeller. Let me slide that off for a minute actually and show you how to get ready to put fins on. This airship has 8 facets, okay? So you'll want to start with the one with the ridge that's right on top. Gondola being down here, top stick being here, that ridge I'm talking about is right here. In the kit, you have included 3 fins that are cut out of a heavy fiberboard. So what you want to do is just set that fin so that the edge of it, the back edge of it, which is the scalloped edge, is just ahead of your little yellow end cone piece there. And then with a pencil, kind of mark where the tab is on the body, or on that ridge rather. Let me use this mechanical pencil here. So I'm just going to make a little mark there and a little mark up here. That way I know where the front and where the back of that tab is going to insert, because now I'm going to take that knife and, with the blade pointing away from me, start at the bottom edge of that and just go in there and make, you have to be real careful with this, a little forward slice. The reason you have to be careful, I'll turn it around, do it this way, and make a few passes. The reason you have to be careful is you don't want to cut that too much. And then I just kind of wiggle the blade to open that space up just a little. And then what you can do is just test it by sliding that tab. I don't think I have the hole cranked open big enough yet. Like I said, a little wiggle there. I mean, if you want, you can kind of carefully shave a little width off of there, and then take your fin and slide it into that slot and then onto the airship, and that's a good fit. So you can take that back out, and then what you want to do is put a little bit of glue here and a little bit of glue here, and you could put a dab in the slot that you created too if you wanted to, and then just slide your fin in there and just kind of look at it end on to make sure that it's straight and it's going straight up, and if it's not, kind of bend over a little bit and get it positioned where you want, and let it dry. Now, these fins can't be equidistant apart because 8 doesn't divide by 3. Okay, so what I always do with this is repeat this process for the facet that's 3 down. So 1, 2, 3 panels. This one, 1, 2, 3 panels. This one. So it's really, you know, the one that's 1 away from the bottom on either side. And then you'll do that same slit procedure here and here, and put your fins in on those 2 positions. And I'll sometimes stand them in a glass or something like that so that the fins don't, you know, from gravity lob out of shape or anything. I'll stand them in a glass so that they dry more vertically. And when those are done, then take your propeller and stick it right on there and glue it in place. And then you'll have an airship that is completely put together and ready for you to paint in one other, or in any fashion that you like, in any color scheme. I'm going to show you the one that I just finished here not too long ago, just so that you can see how they could be painted and decorated. But by all means, you know, experiment and have fun with them. These kits are not expensive. You know, if you want to do a whole fleet of them, you can definitely order them by going to my website at artsmithcraftworks.com and leaving me a comment saying, hey, you know, need some more kits. Or you can leave me a message on my Facebook page, which is Artsmith Craftworks, Facebook at Artsmith Craftworks. You know how that goes. But you can also email me at artsmithcraft@yahoo.com, artsmithcraft@yahoo.com, if you need any more. All right, now I'm going to show you the finished one. Okay, so I was telling you about the different ways that you can finish one of the kits, and this is one that I did not too long ago. And what I've done here is I painted like some veining on there just to give it a little bit of visual interest. The girth panel I painted copper and put some puffy paint rivets on there, as well as rivets along the seams. And all of this is using just acrylic paint, water-based acrylic paint. These are really nice when you get them painted. They look like $1 million, and you can do whatever you want. You can hang them on a holiday tree. You can hang them in a window. You can hang them from your rear view mirror, although I think legally that's frowned upon. The other thing that you can do is, if you're so inclined, build a stand for it. And I did that very thing with this, and this is just odds and ends that I found. This is the base from a little fan, actually, and a toy from a kid's set that had like a girder or a crane in it. And I just pieced this together out of odds and ends. Hang your airship just like that and have it sitting on a mantle or a counter, and it looks amazing because you've created a little display for it. It's open to your imagination. Just find something that looks cool and turn it into something else that looks cool. Make a stand for it. I appreciate your purchasing this kit. I hope that the instructions are clear enough for you to do a good job building yours. I would love for you to like and share this video. If anyone has any comments, tips, things that they like, please send them along. I would also like to see finished photos of the ones that you do yourself, that you build from the kit and put together and finish the way you like it. I would like to put together a blog post and or another YouTube video showing all the different people who've put together their airship. So send them along. I'll include you in my video. Thank you very much. I appreciate the purchase, and have a great day.